Welcome. My name is Penelope Chatterton. Welcome to Awaken the Dream. My friends, it's December, it's the holiday time, and as I drove over here today, I just noticed all the lights and the joy and the celebration that seems to be all over the place, and it's really very uplifting. It's nice to think that we celebrate giving, because I think of the Christmas or the holiday season or whatever tradition you celebrate as one of sharing and gratitude and giving and loving one another. I happen to enjoy that season because it just brings so much to a head, and it's so much fun to prepare and think of others. And so Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, whatever you celebrate, I wish it for you. Today I'm going to talk about the Contemplative Life, which is written by Joel Goldsmith, the creator of The Infinite Way. And it's a hearty book with so many subtitles and headings that I was nervous this morning thinking if I can hit half of them, I'll be doing just fine. It's a beautiful book about the Infinite Way and how Infinite Way students work and feel. And Joel opens up the contemplative life by talking about meditation, about how fast we are in the Western world. We zip around, we do everything at such a speed, unlike in the East or the Orient. They are much slower and much more meditative. So it's interesting, he made a comment that I thought was kind of priceless, like, we are so fast, I bet you we can do our spirituality very fast as well. We can work hard at things because we do. We also, going at this amazing pace, find our minds are more than cluttered, which I know you all know what I'm talking about. It's that time of year, which makes it doubly interesting. So when he talks about the Orient, you know, people who study higher thought and wanting to be enlightened, what they do is they sometimes will live with a teacher for 6, 7, 8 years to attain Satori. It's very different in many communities and many countries, whereas in this country we have Catholics and Protestants and Muslims and Jews. We have all sorts of ways of celebrating the source. Now, Joel goes out of his way to say all of these symbols, all of this ritual, all comes from the same place. God has no particular way of saying, I want you to be this or that. He loves all. He sees all people as one. He sees all faiths and religions under the same God. And with that in mind, I want to go right to the essence of the contemplative life, and everything is going to take me to this point of oneness. That we, in our gratitude, I don't know how often you think every day about looking around you and seeing what the earth looks like. I mean, what a creation this is. I don't know. I can still remember breathing as a kid thinking, oh my gosh, what's that about? How did I do that? I can stop it. I can start it. The awe, don't ever lose the awe. 3, 4, 5, many times a day, look around you at the mystery. The sky, the birds, the nature, the blade of grass, all of it is an expression of one source. Everything. We are expressions of one source. We are one with a big zero. We are one. So keep that in mind. I don't think we do take it for granted, but I know we can because we're used to it here. It's safe. It's safe to get on a highway. It's safe to do all kinds of things. We're familiar here. But get into nature. I think one way to really honor the gift from God of this universe is to get out in nature. Observe how it comes and it goes, and it's eternal. We have life and death all going on in nature. It always comes back, proving that there is no death. And that's what Jesus came to help us with. And when I think of what Jesus came to do as an expression from God, he knew about the cross. He knew what his mission was, and he knew life and death was not the problem that he had. And he knew, after struggling with temptation, that this is where he really needed to go. He needed to not only accept it, but he was okay with it. He was okay with the tomb. He was okay with the resurrection. He knew He was spoken to. He was a transparency. Jesus was a magnificent, wonderful person who showed us that a connection only to the voice is what we live for. We must find that. So that takes us to meditation, of course, which to pray without ceasing goes without saying. To die to the human plane, which, by the way, I thought it was rather profound that Joel Goldsmith mentioned, God did not create the human plane, the material plane, the mortal, the mortal plane. That had nothing to do with God. God is whole, complete, and perfect. Everything that we ever need, God knows, which is why when we sink into meditation, when we feel the presence, God knows our needs before we do. Therefore, we do not ask. That's very paganistic. I think Joel said 8,000 years ago, we started to implore. We want things, and we thought that would be the way to go. Churches, a couple of thousand years ago, decided that is definitely what we want to do. We want to ask for things. Joel says Jesus is not Santa Claus. He knows your needs better than you do. Try and remember that. Get out of the way. Don't implore. Know the power of the Almighty. If you do, you won't ask. You will just go into silence. You will witness the voice, and you will be totally guided every single step of your life. And there are stages and steps in your life. We all flounder. We all fall. We are mesmerized and hypnotized in this human plane to the point where the best folks that work the infinite way, any religious enlightenment program, better, let's say, than anybody else, falls. Sometimes the tests get even harder the harder you work. It's like a test. But you know, we have to forgive ourselves. I think that's very helpful when, yes, we stumble. But we get back up, and those who have a lot of love in their hearts and maybe have suffered very deeply are able to bear their suffering with their love, become incredibly strong healers and teachers. And that brings me to who wakes up? Why wake up? Why find an inner life if everything's going along just fine for you? You're not suffering. Life's great. You got a lot of money. You got everything. Well, the chances are good you won't. Which is interesting and good to read that those folks who do fall, who either have addictions or sins or who are struggling with life, a disease that's life-threatening, they have to go within. Those are the folks that do go in. They find the Christ. The Christ is an expression for the mind of Christ, of God. The Christ mind is different than the human mind. Remember, the human mind does not know God. None of us should really think we do, which is interesting. Joel will mention that our teachers, our parents, our schools, everyone gives us an idea of what God is, or they tell us who and what God is. They don't know, and we don't know. We don't, because it's fresh manna every day. Every time you meditate, something new comes up. Not like yesterday. Don't hang on to that. Expect your meditation practice also to be something that you don't expect a certain experience from it. You don't have a goal. You don't have a mission when you go within yourself. It's fresh. You don't know what to expect. All you need to do, and as Joel says, how's your meditation practice going? How do you like silence? Good question. How do we cultivate that and shut the mind off? We're loaded with knowledge. Oh my gosh, the Western world, we're just loaded with knowledge. But what about our intuitive sense? What about that wonderful, mysterious guidance that sneaks in when we really want to hear it? The way to hear it is silence. Silence is the highest form of worship. Just try to remember that. Silence is the highest form of worship. Not begging for anything, not saying by rote all kinds of things that are appropriate for your form of religion or faith. You need to feel the presence. Joel calls it a deep sigh for him. There's a sense that everything's okay. You feel a lift So that's something to look for when you do meditate and go within. Are you really experiencing the presence? Because from there, all else will be added unto you. There is no other place for you to go but there. That means we say goodbye to the material plane, to the good and the evil that we think about. Yes, we even have to let go of the good stuff. We can't be happy with that because, the good stuff will leave us feeling empty at some point. Believe it or not, yeah, you got everything, and then all of a sudden, gee, life should be perfect, and you find out that that's not it either. We have a divine spark, and until that's utilized, until we serve, until we pour our love out in gratitude, until we let the world know our supply comes to us from pouring it out from our hearts. Oh, we have so much we can do. We can take care of our neighbors. There's so many ways to be the love that you want. You become your best partner. You become everything that you want in life, and then let God do the rest. Our job in gratitude for supply is to keep pouring love out. Ask God, how would I do that? What would you like from my expression? Joel always says, perfect that which concerneth me. Performeth that which you would have me do, which I say all the time when my little I, who would like to die more frequently, gets in the way and I get nervous. I want everything to be just so good for God. I want to be an expression that makes a difference. Now maybe that's ego. All I know is I've been given this last chapter. I call it the last chapter. There's nothing wrong with that, where I feel Joel Goldsmith, the infinite way, is my path. And that comes from a Christian Science dad and grandparents and healers. And it's interesting too, when I think of my dad and Christian Scientists who have, we could judge they died maybe when they shouldn't have because they were Christian Scientists. However, one thing I am very sure of, because I'm so stuck in my way about the infinite way, that whatever your belief is, whatever gives you joy, no matter what your circumstances are, is right for you. We go only from one phase to another. We transition. Joel says in the Contemplative Life, we can come back. The soul will be the same. The body could be different. There's maybe a different sex. None of that matters. Your soul that you have had forever, that knows everything, will be intact with all of your transitions. We're here to be disciplined, friends. Love that word. Discipline. I sometimes feel like that we have to be conscious. So if we don't take the steps as beings to be disciplined in our meditation practice, it's not going to happen. Yes, we can be put on the path. Yes, we can attract angels who give us books and teachers and different ways of life that lift us. Something opens up for us where we are guided. But once you're on that path, that's it. The door's open. And you hang on, and every day should be a celebration of guidance. Now, something was interesting in this particular contemplative life that Joel brings up is the Easter week, Christmas week. We talk of Maundy Thursday. We think of Jesus washing the disciples' feet, and then they all washed each other's feet, and then they had the Last Supper. And the Last Supper was such benevolence and so much humility. On humility, when you wash someone else's feet, it doesn't mean that you feel you're lower than anyone else. It actually means you're loving one another. Communion, the meaning of communion is you're being fed by the Holy Spirit, by the I, by the passion of love from God. That's the real meaning of communion. But we go from Maundy Thursday, we go to the crucifixion on Good Friday. The infinite way does not honor the crucifixion as such. It honors the fact that Jesus knew his mission. He knew he would not die. He knew he was preparing for something. He was preparing for Easter. He was preparing to rise. He knew, and he experienced that. He rose from the tomb, glorious, was seen, filled with his mission. And what a magnificent mission his was. We all have missions, my friends. So if you're not sure of yours, you might want to sort of ponder, where are you heading? Do you have empty baubles? That's a word that Joel uses. I don't know if that's an old-fashioned word, but are you doing something that is really exciting for you? Is it creative? Is it fun? Do you feel like, oh my God, my life means something because I'm giving out, I'm sharing, I'm pouring, and everything you pour is yours. The universe responds by coming right in. You pour out and the whole universe comes in to take care of you in every way conceivable that you never thought of. You can list all the things you want, and it's never going to be as good as letting all those little things go. All the things that this dimension, the human dimension, taught us early on were the important things of life. The car, the degree, the money, all of that is not of God. And I want to get to something kind of significant that I did read about in the Contemplative Life that has me going off on a little bit of a tangent. He said, the dice of God are loaded. Now, I never thought of that expression, but it's kind of interesting. If, in fact, and it is, this is God's universe. It belongs to God. It does not belong to anything else but this divine, beautiful, whole energy. It is God's universe. And when he says the dice of God are loaded, we have, in history, we've come a long way spiritually with sin and damnation and all this guilt. We have come a long way. Sure, there are, definitely it's still out there, but we've come a long way with nations loving one another. We have, and in this world where media is showing us all the tragedy of the world, a lot we've never seen before, we have to know, is really, really difficult. So the fact that we're getting to look at where we can serve is a beautiful thing. But where I'm going with this is that because it's God's universe, if there's anything else out there that's of a wrong law, that's not the law of love, the dice of God will take care of it. That's an interesting thought. We can meditate away political victories, people who are vicious, that want to rule by divine authority, that want to take over the world with their egos. You know, we've had some pretty interesting stuff coming on, and I was so comforted by reading Joel saying, look, that's not God's world. The dice of God are loaded, that shall end. There are folks in history that ruled, that came down. If it's not of God, it will not last. It will come down. The overbearing will be done in. So let's hang on to that when we go through our fear. I haven't had the TV on in a month. It's just much more fun to watch Mayberry or Little House on the Prairie. It's good to keep your sights high. It's good to remember oneness. It's great to remember safety. You're safe in meditation. So the Contemplative Life wants us, for sure, to remember the key to the kingdom, which is here now. We've always had everything. Isn't that interesting? We're home now, we've got everything. We're in eternity right this minute. We've got it all. Now we have to realize it, which means we have to go to work. We have to discipline ourselves in meditation to sit quietly. Let all the stuff in the head go away until you feel a lift, a shift. Feel that presence. Feel that sigh. Know you're home. And then be a witness, a beholder. And when you see the worst possible things out there, try to see what God sees. Think of all the tragedy we look at. God does not see, God sees the love, the divinity of folks that live forever. And we are supposed to, and I feel it's coming, we're learning to be impersonal and detached, because if we really gel on no death, and I mean really, really meditate and understand, life is more peaceful. Yes, we come and we go. We have various phases. That Easter week shows us all our stages of consciousness. We're all in a different place. And I want to mention that too. This different place we're in, Jesus had to do his walk alone. Yes, groups come together. They do community service. We lift the world with all of that love that joins and is wonderful. But our journey as individualized spirits, We have a job to do, and that is to know the truth is we do this alone. You can be in the biggest group, but you're not doing the work that you're going to be doing when you really have to face your own life all by yourself with God. That's where we go. That's the height of meditation. Not thinking someone in a group is going to give you that or do it for you. We all walk alone, essentially, no matter whether you're in the best situation in the world. We come in alone and we go out, but we're never alone. And the beauty of that is accept the fact that you have to do the work. Again, I am pushing meditation and silence. As I love the way Joel says, how's your silence going? Well, it's kind of relaxing in many ways to sit in the presence, especially the more you develop it, the more you find you crave it, and the more automatically you see things coming and going in your life, and it's like, oh my goodness, thank you, thank you. You give thanks all the time, gratitude. Looking out at a mountain, get into nature. Give thanks. In the Orient, it's interesting about meditation. Joel suggests that in the East, they had such a big meditation practice, but for some reason it didn't hold up. And then we started it in the West, and what he is saying is we kind of corrected it, because I think what Joel is saying was missing was the Father. It's one thing to see illusions, it's one thing to dissolve the negative, but then where is that voice? We discovered the voice. Now, in the history of meditation, it was interesting in time that folks thought by teaching it they could get stuff. And they taught that, and people were attracted to that, thinking, oh, I'm going to study that because I'm going to get stuff. That can actually help you to lose something. Meditation is not about that. Metaphysics is overcoming something with something else. This is not metaphysics. Infinite way folks, or people who want to be realized in eternity, who really are mystics, only see the positive, only see love. There is no fear. There's no plane of fear. It does not exist. So meditation grew to the point where it realized going deeper and deeper brought a new chapter where God knows your needs better than you do. And then you find some sort of an ecstasy where that so-called being alone on your journey is, you're never, ever, ever, ever alone. And you begin to rejoice in that companionship. It is an overwhelming feeling to have each day and each evening just filled with spirit. And by the way, the word spirit, the invisible world is a spirit world. You can't see it. The visible plane isn't real. Everything we look at, smell, touch, taste, that's not here. That doesn't exist. The invisible is what we're looking for, is what we crave, because that is where the mystery is. That's the good stuff. That's where we walk on water, we walk through walls, we have joy, we have peace, and we don't worry about tyrannical leaders and rulers who think they're going to take over the world. It's not their world. It's not God's world. They will come down. So I have only a couple of more minutes, and as I wind down, try to remember your meditation practice. Try to remember oneness. Try to remember how whole you are right this minute. You've got everything. You just have to realize it, which means you consciously have to go to work. You have to do it. No one else can do it for you, and you want to do it. You want to pray without ceasing. You want to walk on water, and it can happen, but you have to do the work. Consciously is a consciousness is what it is. You got to be conscious. You got to think there. You got to think, get rid of your negative thoughts. Catch yourself. Replace negative thoughts. Actually dissolve them. Forgive me. Don't replace them. Dissolve them. See them as the way God sees them. They're not there. Infinite way folks know there is nothing out there. We replace everything that we know in another with love. We see everybody the same. Everybody has grace. Everybody has the same grace that you have. We got to love that. We are no respecter of persons. God loves every race, creed, every religion, everything and everyone are the same to God because we are connected. Try to think of our bodies even be apart from somebody. They're not. That the invisible spirit, we're all in this energy, we're all breathing together. We all have everything together. And we all have an individual God who is keeping an eye on each one of us, every blade of grass. That I love. I love that. This universe is gorgeous. Appreciate nature. Don't forget the mystery of what we live in. I mean, where we are and why. Now, we got to get to our job. The job is, what can I do to serve? How can I make the planet better? How can I serve this oneness? So in dissolving all this negative stuff that can scare us, it actually disappears. We nothing-ize it. We, in our enjoying grace, as we rise up in our grace is everybody's. Everybody goes up with us. So try to remember, you're feeding oneness. You're feeding God's plan for the universe. Every time you meditate, you look at your negative thinking, you check yourself on how your mind is working if it's not of God. We all have work to do, but we're getting there. Think about how we've come from sin and damnation, how countries talk to each other. I mean, don't let what's going on because we have more media fool you. We're getting there, and we're not going back. We're going to get better. It's just the way it is. That's the law. Omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience. There's only one wisdom, one power, and we are on holy ground all the time. Remember that. Wherever you are, I stand on holy ground. My hand is held. He goes before me. He makes the crooked ways straight. He prepares mansions for me. He sees only love in one another. As you see that, you have it. As you pour out, you have more is demanded of you. The more you give out, the more is expected of you. And you're not going to hide in a cave. You're going to be given work to do. The more you really tune in and accept your mission. It is fulfilling, and there's no other way to live but to feel like you have made a difference in the whole plan of the universe. Now, I only have a minute, but I wanted to end up my program. First of all, wishing you happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I have a twin sister. Her name is Pamela Chatterton Purdy, and her minister husband, David, have created a movement of their own called the Icons of the Civil Rights Movement. You can Google them. They are doing a great job. But I'm bringing this up because I'm bringing up an example about a mission. They adopted a Vietnamese and an Afro-American way, way back, and there was a lot of turmoil around that. My sister Pam worked at Ebony Magazine as the only white gal. I mean, they have had all these chapters, and we go through these chapters, and now, with all the work they're doing with the icons, she's an artist, and she does all these icons, and David writes, and they do it together. They've got all these books out, but they have a mission, and they have raised consciousness. So you never know where you're heading. One chapter leads to another. You think you've got it. I thought I was all these things, and I've loved every one of my chapters, and I've embraced them and thought that was it. I don't know if I thought that was it, but then something else happens, and then something else happens, and then all of a sudden another door opens, and that's because we're God-filled, we have the Spirit within us, we're creative. And unless we're creating constantly something new, not something from yesterday, in your meditation, be sure, don't expect the experience to look the way it should. You think it should look, or you want a result from something. You want to do nothing but be nothing. Sit in the vacuum. No agendas, and listen. Listen for your very life, because that's where your life is. My friends, let's keep working on and appreciating the divine, and appreciate and adore God for what He gave us on this earth. Or this universe, this whole universe. It's a gift to us. Grace is a gift that will always be there. As we sink into meditation, grace waits for us and tells us how much we are loved and where we are and where we're going and what we're to do. No agendas, let God make up our minds. Let Him be in charge. All right, my friends, I'm winding down, but thank you so much for joining me on Awake in the Dream. I will talk to you again soon.